Yeah, it's like your stuff together. I don't like that. I feel like it's mean. I like to save money too.
Good morning.
Good morning. All right. I feel like we're close to all of us being here. I'm so proud of you. You've made it to the end. Hooray. It's good times. So I'm sure that we'll have a couple more hop on, but let's go ahead and get started with prayer for right now. Father God, I just thank you so much for this group of students that has been willing to go on this adventure this summer. Lord, I just pray that you would bless them for their perseverance, for the determination that it took to be on classes during a time that a lot of people aren't on classes. Lord, and I thank you so much for each of their insights and the way that they have participated, engaged with material, engaged with each other. And Lord, it has just been such a blessing. So I just ask that you would take this final time, help us to honor one another, to have good conversation, and at the end of the day, give you the glory. In your name we pray. Amen. All right. So, hi. Thumbs up, down, low. Thumbs up, pretty good. Maggie's not so sure. Mia's like, I have a bug bite on my eyeball and it's no good. She's full of sadness. I'm glad to see your faces. So let's have a talk about the adolescence and a fundamental need to contribute. Do you think that you have a fundamental need to contribute to the world? All right, I'm seeing a nod yes to Ren and an I'm not sure from Samuel and blank looks from others. So let me start with Ren and then I'll go to Samuel and then we'll pull in the others that are inspired by what you have shared.
Okay. So why I think we have a need to contribute is because when God first created Adam and Eve, they were meant to work in the garden and they were meant to be stewards of the earth and contribute towards the earth. And as time goes on through the Bible, you see them, the Israelites and everyone, contribute towards the people. So we were clearly designed to contribute. And I think as Christians, we have to decide what that looks like from a biblical perspective. But it's not that we weren't designed to contribute. It's just that we need to do it appropriately.
Okay. Samuel, she pulled in the God card. What are you going to answer with that?
The God card. Okay, so I do believe that we were meant to work. What I meant was that I don't like humans in general often don't feel the need, especially if they are not Christians, to work because of our sin nature. I do believe, in fact, though, that there will be jobs in heaven, even builders, scientists that will continue learning. But what I was saying is that, yeah, often because of our sinful nature, humans don't feel the need to work. Instead, they want to just kind of sit around and do whatever instead.
Okay. Any other thoughts? I know that you have to have some thoughts. Maybe I'll ask a different type of, oh, Mia, she's been bold. She's raised her hand.
I think it kind of depends on who you ask. I do think that there's stuff that you can contribute, especially adolescents, like in their family life. Because you're not a kid anymore where you're completely helpless and you rely on your parents a lot. Now, like me, I can drive now, so I can help go get groceries and stuff. Like there's things that once you are able to, you kind of just become responsible for being able to do it. And so even if we're not looking at the grand scheme of like things that I'm responsible to do in the world, there's things that you should be responsible to do in just your own household that, you know, as an adolescent, like that's kind of what you need. Like it's your responsibility to do it to your family, to help your parents. Yeah.
Okay, Taylor?
I wanted to ask Samuel, in heaven, why would we need to work still?
What else are you gonna do? I'm just kidding.
So, yeah, so in the garden, Adam and Eve were meant to work. It's something to do. We're not going to learn everything. It's not like we're going to get to heaven and immediately know everything. At least I don't think. That's not what it would seem, because you have nowhere in the Bible where it says you get to heaven, you know everything, and then we sit around for all of eternity.
That's true, yeah.
It's-
It's just an interesting concept to me because I never thought that we'd be doing anything else in heaven besides just like floating around.
The way you put that was amazing.
It seems to me like you just kind of die and just float forever.
Okay, what
Why
else?
is it?
Oh, go on.
I didn't mean to hit the space bar.
Are there any other things that have popped out from the reading that you would like to highlight? Taylor?
It said that ages, I think it was 8 or maybe 9 to 18 are likely to give very costly donations to friends and even strangers. And for me, that's completely 100% true because I have always been a giver. I have 0 candy left after Easter because my cousins are all over. I'm just like, here, you only like this candy? Here, take that candy. I don't like this candy. You take it. And then I have just like a single Kit Kat left.
She doesn't share with me though.
I do share with you. What are you talking about? All the time.
Well, I think that one of the things that I notice about toddlers is that while you do have to talk to them about sharing, they're often far more generous as little ones, and they kind of gain the desire for mine, all mine. Like it's a weird thing. They go through the, I give you this, I'll give you this, and then they go into the seagulls, mine, 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 mine. And it's really interesting just to see human development. But if you think about teams, they're usually pretty easy. Kids are easy to work with. They go with the flow. They're usually pretty easygoing. And when you get into those teenage years, all of a sudden you have some little bit more cranky opinions sometimes. Ryan?
My cousin, so we're all together right now. I go to give him food and he wants to sit in the chair 1 foot away from it. So I would not say they're very easy to handle.
Well, they are called the terrible threes, but before that, it's usually pretty sweet. So, Taylor.
Kind of unrelated, but Samuel got me thinking about heaven. What kind of elevator music are they playing before they get you into heaven?
I
What?
am assuming that's
What
going
did
to be
you say?
something you'll figure out.
If you like pina coladas.
Who knows? So let me also ask you another question. What type of communities do you see yourself being a part of right now? Mia brought up the family community, which all of you are a part of a community within your family. What other communities are you a part of? Tyler?
I mean, like communities like friend groups or kind of.
Yeah. Communities are relationships of people, and they could look a lot different. Like I would argue that a text messaging thread where you play a You Choose story is a community.
Okay, well then, 3 different chats. I don't know how to describe them. Campus and church
Okay.
and my friend group.
All right. Kenna and Taylor.
Yeah, I was just gonna say the church community. I was going to say your friends, but you know that got taken as well.
Ren.
I think for my drill team is a big one.
Mhm. Mia.
I think like soccer and high school sports and FCA.
Some of you are missing a very obvious one. Tyler.
The community of God.
Heels.
That is a very obvious one that is true. There are a couple more that I'm looking for answers for you all to think of. Taylor.
Random people you meet on the street, homeless people that need money.
Okay. A community of givers. Ryan.
This class.
Absolutely. Are you all United States citizens?
Oh no, I am a student of the UA. Or wow, that's not what I meant. UK. I'm a student from UK.
Okay, so we're part of our national community, right? We're part of our cities or towns where we live. So there are some places that we're a part of the community by virtue of where our feet are planted. And there are other communities that we are a part of by virtue of our interests or our hobbies, or like Elijah, are you a part of a coin collecting community?
Sort of.
So sometimes it can be, you could even be a part of communities of people who love the same book. Like maybe you are just crazy about Marvel movies. And so you're part of the Marvel fandom community. So when you start thinking about it, there's lots of little places and sometimes really large places. Now, one of the things that's really unique about your particular age group is that when you hit your 20s and 30s and 40s, there are not scholarships to be involved with different things. Like the opportunities just dry up. But where you are right now, there are opportunities for students and adolescents all over the place. Like it could be 4-H or drill team or whatever. And you can see that there's a 14 through 18 years old age gap, or, tons of different opportunities. And the challenge that I would say to you is, what do you choose and how do you make a difference in whatever community you're in? Does that make sense? One of the things for our family that we have always talked about is Veals are helpers. So whatever community we're in, we want to be the ones that are helping make it better, not just consuming. The statistics say that 10% of the people do 90% of the work in any organization, whether it's a church or anything else. 10% of the people, as a standard rule of thumb, will do 90% of the work. So when it comes down to that, our family made a decision early on that we wanted to be some of the helpers, some of the workers. And that looks different in every community that we're a part of. But what I would encourage you guys to do is to think about what types of impact you want to have. Kenna, when you're in a group, what do you want people to say about Kenna Maxwell every time they hear your name? It's building a reputation early on. Tyler, Ryan, if they know that your family is showing up someplace, what are they going to have to do? Do they batten down the hatches, or do they know someone's going to help pick up the chairs? And it makes a difference. And you are at an age where you are still on your parents' coattails, but it makes a difference what you do. You're practicing for how you will engage in the future. How many of you have ever, I'm gonna have a blank spot. There's a girl from Europe whose name is Greta, and I can't remember her last name, and she talks about climate change all the time. Do you know who I'm talking about? No? She's like 17 years old now, and she's speaking to the United Nations about climate change. There are opportunities for young people that older people just don't have. So when you think about how you want to change the world, do any of you have ideas of how you want to engage in your communities and make a difference?
Kenna's gonna be the next president.
All right, Kenna, what are your main issues that you're going to run on? What do you want to see changed?
Lots.
Tons.
Tons.
75% of the nation.
My kids used to say they wanted to run to be president so that they could make sure that nobody would ever smoke. Max will still
You
say
get kicked out of office for that.
that. Yeah,
That and no creepy dolls, according to Max.
no creepy
Creepy
dolls.
dolls.
Yeah. Max has strong opinions about certain things in our family.
The occupation of a clown is now banned. You have to be an underground clown if you want to be a clown.
If Max is president,
I'm leaving the country.
are there any dreams that you guys have of what you would like to do with yourselves? Ryan,
I would like to own lots of cars.
okay, what is the impact that that will make on your community?
I'm not a good one.
That's not true, because there are people who do the Barrett Jackson car festivals every single year, and they love those cars because to them it is beautiful art. That makes an impact on the world. Tyler?
I want, okay, it's a stupid one, but I want to have a mansion filled to the brim with tech, with the best stuff ever, but yeah, it's not gonna happen.
Well, if it did happen, what would your impact on the community be?
That I'm a nerd.
And your nerdiness can be used for good. How?
I could get pretty, if I did, I could probably get anyone else hooked up with technology.
He's gonna become Bruce Wayne.
Could be. Maggie?
When I grow up, I want to like own a farm and like out of the city. I want to live in the country. So,
And what would your impact on the world be?
well, I would have animals to sell to people who want them, I guess. I don't know.
You,
Animals are healthy, so they make you healthier.
you could help people understand that food doesn't come on a styrofoam plate. Kind of a big deal.
Yep.
Samuel.
Or that buying meat from the store still involves killing an animal. Like that's just kind of how it works.
Yeah.
Cuckoo.
No way.
Samuel?
Stop speaking conspiracy theories.
Being a police officer, so how that's one of my possible jobs. My reason for that, it not annoys me, it frustrates me and angers me to see that people are constantly being hurt, robbed from all that, and that lots of people do nothing. And then there's this talk about like, let's just get rid of the police.
Mhm,
It's not going to work out well.
mhm.
It drives me nuts. Doesn't make sense. Like we have, okay, here on the lake, I think this weekend, like 10 people, I think, died in a boating accident because they didn't want police supervision. So the police, like, I don't know the whole story, and maybe I'm telling this wrong, but basically, so they didn't want any like police involved. So police were fine with it. It was on private property, blah, blah, blah. But then they had to go back and check on them because I think it was like midnight or something, and they got called for disturbance. So you have to go. And then yeah, we're at a family reunion. But anyways, so after that, they were just all dead
Nope.
because of the explosion.
Taylor and Kenna,
I want to live in a small, like cute little cottage in the woods and just do art for the rest of my life
okay. And is art
Like-
worth doing?
and collect rocks. For
Why
no
is art worth doing?
because it can glorify God, and if I am polishing up my talents that God gave me, then I feel like I'm kind of doing what He told me to.
This has been a dream of mine for a very long time. I would really love to be a monster truck driver in a Monster Jam, and that would help the community because I mean that is fantastic entertainment, and I feel like it would be so fun to do.
Mhm. And you know, people that do stuff like that have opportunities to impact just because of the cool factor. You know, you get to do interviews afterward, and there's a reason for a long time that Disney paid athletes to say, I just won the Super Bowl and I'm going to Disneyland, because those words have an impact and you have options with that dream. Maggie, was your hand up?
Well, one of the jobs that I have been looking at is being a NICU nurse. For like infants and babies. They're the same thing, sorry. Well, I think that would be a good thing to do because you get to help parents and like help the babies. And I mean, a lot of babies wouldn't be alive if the NICU wasn't there.
Absolutely. I think the sky is the limit for you all. For what you dream of, God will put it in your heart, and you will, if you direct your paths to glorify Him, you will find the opportunities will start to open up in front of you. G.K. Chesterton says that some of the most beautiful things are ordinary people living ordinary lives. And if you do so with integrity and consistency, you make such an impact, even if you aren't the Tony Starks of the entire world. Sometimes some of you will be. Like, there's a very good chance that you guys are going to actually be the people that end up in newspapers with headlines written about them. You have all of the tools. And maybe you won't be. And maybe someday you'll be cooking meals for a family, a passel of kids, and it will not feel glamorous. But the doing of that thing, the ordinary things, is a beautiful piece if you do it with intention. So I just want you guys to come out of this looking for opportunities to serve others well and being encouraged to know that pretty much, I think God cares a whole lot more about where you put your heart and how you want to glorify Him. It says in the Bible that do everything for the glory of God, and it's everything. Go get your coffee for the glory of God. Go drive the speed limit for the glory of God. Go feed your animal for the glory of God. And if you do that, it could be negotiating world peace. Who knows? But if it's for the glory of God, it will be a beautiful thing. So that's what I have to say. What?
World peace is always for the glory of God.
Well, yeah, in function, it is. So do I think that it's actually going to happen? No.
Except when it's the Hunger Games.
Oh, That would be fiction, but it's sometimes it looks around and I'm like, this looks a lot like that. Never read that type of fiction because it will scare you when you look at the news stories today. Oh, okay. So are there any other thoughts about that? Or are we all good? Can we move on to action reports? Okay, your very last set of action reports. Are you going to be grieving that you don't have them for next week? Got to find your names. All right, we are going to start with Rin.
Alrighty. So, found an interesting paradox that there is not a lot on forest fires, but wildfires. So, I have information on both. The average forest fire size is 48 acres, and that's an average taken over the span of 15 years. The amount of taxpayer dollars that go into fire suppression and firefighting is roughly $2 billion per year. And each year for the past 20 years, the fire organization, I forgot what it was called, has gone over the budget that Congress gave them for fires and for fire suppression. Wildfires, to be a wildfire, it has to burn over 1,000 acres. So that's the average, it's over 1,000 acres. And then I found some interesting things. So majority of wildfires happen on Forest Service land. Then the second majority is non-federal, and then the third majority is other federal. As of 2021, each year it's different. They have lots of different charts and things. So each year they have a chart that shows how many acres were burned in millions and the number of fires. So in 2015, there were 10.13 million acres burned, and there were 68.2 fires. Like, they have little charts like that. And I discovered one that showed the number of fires in thousands as to where they were at. So federal acreage in 2021 was 14,000 acres burned, or fires, 14,000 fires, and then 5.2 million acres burned as of the federal thing. So a lot more fires happen on federal land because, like the Forest Service, they let you camp and you have fires and lightning strikes, among other things. I also discovered that when your taxpayer dollars go towards it, the total is $2 billion. However, the way they divide out your federal tax dollars is fascinating to me. So most of it goes towards defense, Social Security, health insurance, and economic security programs. And there's this blue square that is like the police, agriculture, education, all of that. And so education is 3%, transportation is 2%, and law enforcement is 1%, international is 1%, and all other things is 5%. Agriculture is 1%. I thought that was fascinating. It's like, well, you can tell where all our money goes, but I didn't realize that that little of it went to various things like that. Whoa.
Okay.
My phone was the weight holding the computer, apparently. So that's all I have.
That's great. Mia, you had a question?
I just think it's interesting that a larger percentage of our tax goes to teachers and education and even transportation than it does to our police. And yet people are still sitting here saying, let's defund the police when they're literally getting 1% of our tax.
It's interesting too.
I like how so much goes to Medicare and not the police and education. It's a fun one too.
Tyler?
Another random comment, but how much time would you have to calculate how much time a forest fire burned, how far it burned, and everything? And why would you do that? Do you have to like put it in the records?
Well,
And-
Yeah.
it's a statistic because then they watch for it. We have a friend who, as you go up in like the ranks of the fire department, you can go on call, and in the summer you just you go and do different wildfires. So he was here one summer for like 3 weeks, and you literally, they camp and they hike up and they check the fires. So he hikes all day, and then like there's other parts of it where there's manual labor and you dig trenches and all that stuff. But a lot of the people are just checking the fires, and because they have the statistics of this is how much pine forest normally burns per hour or whatever, they can tell them. So that way, if they need to move camp, they can move and keep our guys safe and make sure that they keep the towns and other places safe. Although most wildfires occur in rural areas along with forest fires. But I thought that was fascinating because he talked to me about it last time he was here.
I think it's called Fire Management Assessment. It's an actual college degree program. And if it's your thing, it's super interesting. Our area has had lots of fires lately. And so what they'll do is they'll gather the communities together, and they'll know based on the type of trees or bushes or whatever in that area, they'll be able to assess how much damage they think it's going to be done. And then in certain areas, they'll just let it roam. They won't even try to contain it. They'll just let it run out of fuel because it costs so much more and puts so many lives at risk. And if it's federal land that nobody's living on anyway, sometimes it's better to just let it go. And then there are other things, like if you look at the trees in California, is it Sequoia National Park? The sequoia, are you familiar with the sequoia trees, the enormous trees? The pine cone pods will not even open to plant new seeds unless they hit a certain degree of temperature, which then forces the pine cones to open and the seeds to be released and the forest to regenerate. So it's like a symbiotic relationship that needs the fire in order to propagate. And it's just, anyway, that is not what this class is about. And I am so sorry, because I clearly am very passionate about it, but it's really interesting to me. And it's actually very helpful in the situation. So that's all I have to say about that. Sorry. Thank you, Ren. Ryan, you're the next one.
Okay, so anonymous tipster. Sorry.
Learn to speak.
I had to research how often people wish to remain anonymous when giving large sums of money. So I found that 50.6% of people of anonymous tipsters remain anonymous because if someone figures out that you gave that money.
Wait, can you hear him?
Hardly.
Samuel, thank you for telling me. Okay. Ryan, sit right there.
Okay,
I had on voice isolation.
do you want me to restart?
That's good. Most
hear me?
anonymous tipsters remain anonymous because
Okay. Because if someone figures out that you tipped that money, they're more than likely gonna come after you because they might think you have more money, or they might go after the person you tipped the money to. Also, I just researched if it was illegal to give money like that, and depending on the amount of money I found, well, according to what I think I found, some places it is, but most places it's not. And that's pretty much it.
okay. Thank you. Tyler, keep that on.
Oh.
You're next.
Can you guys hear me? Hello?
Yes.
Okay.
No one can hear you. We're totally in the dark here.
Yes. I don't want you to hear my beautiful singing voice. Okay. I researched what it takes to start a farmer's market and how to be successful in one of them. Sorry, we had some late nights. If you want to start a farmer's market, then some things you might want to do is have good quality service and products for your customers. Get the word out by partnering with local businesses or by telling friends and family and just starting off slow. Some tips: don't get discouraged if work starts out slow. Every business starts slow. If people are insulting you, everyone does that, even big business corporations, and that's how it's always going to be. And the customer is always right most of the time. Thank you.
Okay, sounds good. Chase is not here today. Samuel.
Okay, so I had how many people run full-time jobs, and then how many people from that run a second job. So of the people who work full-time second jobs, or no, sorry, of the people who work a full-time job, only 5% as of June of this year work a second job, even though like 3/4 of Americans complain that they don't make enough money. I found that really strange because they're all going, we're not making enough money. Give us the money. Don't make us work for it. However, that is better than in February of 2020, which is at the beginning of the pandemic, actually. So now that there are less people being employed, there's actually more people working a second job. That was interesting. It was only 4% were working a second job, full time, of course. So it makes sense to work a second job when you don't have enough money, or when you're getting low on money, like that sorry, that's really badly phrased. When you're using more money than you're earning. And then when you also have like a daycare for your, say, your like 3-year-old kids, you can't leave them at home. Don't do that. It's not going to work. So when you have the proper resources to take care of your kids, family, and then that's also why it's so important to have savings. Lots of people went into debt and life just didn't work out for them. And the stock market crash in the 1900s, even at COVID, when prices rose a bit. Right now, prices are still rising. People are going to have to dive into savings, which is why it's so important to have those savings. So yeah, overall, if you are using more money than you're making, if you have a plan, then that might be the time to start looking for a second job.
Thank you. Maggie.
Okay, so my Xbox exploded. I don't have one, but it exploded apparently. So I researched the most common reasons that game consoles and computers break. And so one of the reasons game consoles break is because of dirt and dust. The heat from the console attracts dust, which can cover your console's components, and the game console then cannot bring in or out air, so it can overheat and break that way. And that's what I found for the game consoles, but a computer can crash because of error in the operating system, software, or errors in the computer hardware. Software errors are more common, but hardware errors can be harder to diagnose, and like they're worse than software errors. hardware and software failure can be prevented by turning off devices turning off devices while not in use, unplugging devices during storms, and implanting procedures on downloading files via computer device, company devices. Sorry, I was very this one was fun to research because I like that kind of stuff. But yeah, it was really interesting.
You can thank Tyler for that idea. All right, thanks, Maggie. Taylor?
All right, I hope you're all ready to have your minds blown. I mean, not really, but I won the lottery. I'm special. Most Americans actually spend an average of $70K a year on lottery tickets. That's really expensive for a piece of paper.
That's a car every year.
The odds, interestingly enough, are about 1 in every 175 million to win the lottery. But people only see the prizes, not the loss. It's like gambling. They get addicted. Their minds associate the loss with the gain. So they don't see what's wrong with what they're doing. They only see what they need to do. The Empire State hashes out the most tickets, with New Yorkers spending about $90K every year. The largest jackpot ever won was $656 million and was split between 3 different winners who had gone in on it together. But if you even manage to win, it doesn't mean you take home all the dough. It's estimated that 80 million stayed stored up after 800 million stayed stored up after all is said and done. Statistically speaking, men buy tickets more often than women do. Wonder why that is. There is a song about that, actually. 20 to 30-year-olds are the main age groups to try their luck with the lottery. 65% of Americans say that they would still continue to work their 9-to-5 jobs even after winning the lottery. So if you became a millionaire or a billionaire or whatever, because you won the lottery, most Americans say that they would still go to work and they'd still keep on earning money. Most people go broke after 5 years after winning the lottery. And that is what I have gathered on my lottery winnings.
All right, Mia?
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen this meme, but it's a meme going around about how the IRS wins the lottery because a person won the lottery. They won the $1.28 billion lottery. And after tax, they only got $433.7 million, which is still a lot, but that means technically the IRS won $846 million off of the other person's lottery. So it's this meme going around about how the IRS won the lottery because they took like a third of what that person actually won in tax.
My person off screen just said 2/3. So 60% of your winnings go back to the IRS. Rin? Oh, state and federal. He's whispering to me too. State and federal.
That's what I was gonna say. It's the significant amount is taken via taxes. And then there's a whole study on the suicide rate of lottery winners, which if you get a chance, it's fascinating.
Well, and a lot of the scholarship funds for colleges, like Georgia has a Hope Scholarship that's 100% tuition-free college for certain students. And it's paid for by the lottery earnings, which is just really interesting to me. So, all right, Elijah, this is going to be the best presentation you've done the whole class. Right here, coin things.
I guess if I could figure out how to unmute myself. Okay. So my report is on error coins. So I've been a coin collector for a few years, and it's a topic I'm really interested in. So the first question is, what kinds of error coins are there? And are they worth more than other coins typically? So yes, most error coins are worth more than regular coins, although there are exceptions. However, one thing I was going to say, it's important to distinguish between error coins and coins that have been damaged after they've been made, because something like this, it's a cent, except it's kind of rainbowy. And some people would think it was an error coin, but actually it's just been zinc plated. So, okay, back to error coins. Coins that have been made incorrectly in some way at the mint are typically worth more, often a lot more than regular coins. And some of the different types of error coins there are, before I go into that, I think I should explain how coins are made. That will give you a better understanding of how error coins happen. So, because I've been into coin collecting for a while, I thought I would like to try and make some tokens. They're not actually coins, but they're made in generally the same way. Our family has a welding steel business, and I thought I could give it a try. So I researched how coins were made, and here. So coins are made by stamping the image into them using stamps that, unlike normal stamps, which would press down into metal, these stamps have impressions in them so that the blank piece of metal the coin is stamped on will flow up into the design under several tons of pressure. And I brought examples of my dies. They are the things that put the design in. They are pressed together on the blank piece of metal inside of a collar, which is like a thick piece of pipe. And if everything goes well, you'll get a finished coin as a result of that. But some of the things that can happen are, before you get the blank piece of metal to begin with, it's called a planchet. It starts as a strip of metal that has holes punched in it. And the punch outs from those holes are planchets. But as they're going along punching holes in it, kind of like a hole punch would put holes in a piece of paper, if the metal is moved not enough or in the wrong direction, it will produce an overlapping hole, and the blank will come out more like this. So if that then gets past the inspection process and gets turned into a coin, it's called clipped planchet. Those are typically worth anywhere from $3 to about $90, depending on what kind of coin you have. But if the planchet is fine, other errors that can happen are if the collar is absent for some reason, the coin will be struck, but it will spread out larger than normal because it's being struck under several maybe 20 tons of pressure. And that's called a broad strike or broad strike. But those are worth about,
You muted.
You went away. Your last words were, those are worth about, and then you went away.
yes, I'm having a little trouble with this. Those are worth about $500 to $1,000, I think. 1,000 would be more for an obsolete silver dollar. But if that were to occur, but the planchet was not centered correctly, it's more like this, the design will come out like this. And that is if you can see it,
Mhm.
that's a 1 cent piece that has been done that way. I thought that was interesting. And there are a lot of other kinds of errors that can occur. There's wrong planchet, it's struck on maybe a penny struck on a dime, or struck twice, a doubled image. The dies can break, leaving crack lines or areas that do not have, there it is, areas that do not have a design in them. And one more kind of error is when there's grease that fills in part of the die. It will actually prevent some of the design from showing on the finished coin. And those ones are about the only one you can actually find in circulation. They're not worth much more on average. There are exceptions, but if you find a coin that some of the design is just missing, that's probably what it is. So as far as whether or not you can find any error coins in circulation, very rarely anymore, because about 20 years ago, they got new machines at the mint to eliminate error coins. And if they do happen, they get sorted out and destroyed. But you can, on occasion, find an error coin, and some of them are worth a lot of money. In 2000, with the new dollar coins that were coming out, somebody bought a roll from a bank and they found one that had the head of a quarter and the tails of the dollar and sold it for almost $30,000. Another really rare one is 1943. During the middle of World War II, they stopped making cents out of copper for 1 year and made them out of steel. And a few of those were accidentally made on old copper blanks. Those are now worth in excess of $1 million each.
Wow,
So that's what I have for error coins.
that's crazy. Oh, you have questions. Don't turn your speaker off.
Okay, I have like 3 questions. Okay, so that every coin has like, okay, I'm gonna say serial number. Every coin has a serial number, so does the stamp have to be switched every time? Or does, what happened? Yeah, they do. They all have identification numbers. And if they all have the same number, and then say the FBI saw them, and then they're using the same, like they have the same identity number, would one be considered whatever? I forgot what it's called.
So
Counterfeit?
that's how,
Yeah, counterfeit, thank you.
yes. So that's how paper currency works. Coins don't all have individual serial numbers. They do all have the dates and mint marks that are specified when and where they were made. But if they, to tell a counterfeit coin, it's more difficult than a bill because they don't serial number them. because they would have to switch the stamp out every time if they did. And they're making billions of coins every year. So they would go through a lot of dies that way. But oops, I
And
lost it.
how do you sell them? Do you just put it on eBay?
Yes. That's how everything works.
Like, do you go to like a coin collector shop? Because now I want to get into this.
Take all my coins.
Yeah, I'm gonna take all yours and then all mine.
There are a lot of different ways to sell them. eBay is one, and coin shops are another. One thing you have to think about before selling one online is typically if it's very rare or valuable, it has to be certified by a professional company that would do that. That can cost $50. But if you sell it at a coin shop, they will often buy them uncertified because they can tell whether they're real or not.
Brian?
That just made me thinking. That just goes to show how people pay for mistakes.
Yep. Thank you, Elijah. That's great. Kenna?
That would be my name. Okay, I got pan for gold. And I had to research what is the gold standard and how has this impacted the gold economy over time. The gold standard is a monetary system where a country's paper money is linked to gold. Countries agreed to convert paper money into a fixed amount of gold. Countries that have this set as a, hang on. Countries that have this set a price for gold and buys and sells at this price. The price determines the value of the currency. The gold standard is not used by any government/country today. In 1931, Britain stopped using, and shortly after this, all countries followed, or most countries followed. The gold standard made price levels around the world move together, which caused a severe deflation in the world's economy. Lots of countries had this issue, but figured a way out and left the gold standard behind. And that's basically all I have.
Okay, thank you. Lydia's not here, so that means Mia.
So I am talking about game shows, and I just, because there's a lot of them, use Jeopardy because it's a very popular, well-known one. So approximately 80,000 people take an online test that like kind of puts them in for the drawing to be on the show. And it's free, like any of us could take it right now. So a lot of people do that. And then of that 80,000, only about 2,500 actually show up to the in-person auditions. Most of that is because they are in different states and people that aren't actually serious about it don't want to travel to places like New York or California where the auditions are usually held. So that's only about 3% of the original 80,000 people actually go to the auditions. And then of that 2,500 people, only about 200 to 300 people are actually selected and put into the first round. They go through kind of an interview process. And I don't know if you know about Jeopardy. The show is like kind of a trivia show. So these people like kind of get a little bit tested on their knowledge just so that someone that doesn't know anything isn't going in to compete on the show. So, and of that 200 to 300 people, about 12% of them make it into the second round. So that's 0.01% of our original number make it to the second round. For Jeopardy, at least, every contestant makes money, even if you don't win. So if you get first place of your 3 people, then you move on to the next round, where over multiple episodes and seasons, you eventually get a grand winner. But if you get second place, then you get a $2,000 compensation. And if you get third, then you get $1,000. So if you actually make it into the first or second rounds, you do get paid. And then I researched how much the host makes for that show. And I'm pretty sure this is per season. Not totally sure, but I'm pretty sure it's per season. And the host, Dr. Oz, makes $269,000 per season. And I know that he's been hosting for a lot of years, which means he is doing pretty well for himself. So
All right.
that's what I got.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So we are brushing right now against 10 o'clock. If I were to go back at the beginning of this, I would just make the class go to 10:15. It's clear that I have messed that up this entire time. But do you guys want to stay on and talk about and give feedback about the class, or would you rather send that over email? Kenna?
Were you going to see how much money we've collected off of just finding coins in like parking lots and things?
Yes, how much? I've gotten 5 cents. How much have you gotten?
I've gotten $3.09.
Ooh. Mia?
I got $1.23.
It used to be that would be enough to buy a Taco Bell burrito. It's not
We haven't
anymore.
even been
You have
out.
6
Yeah, we
cents?
got nothing.
Well,
we
if
don't go
all
shopping or
combine
anything.
together, we could get a soft taco. I think, it's just interesting. I just have made it a habit to start grabbing the coins. So maybe that will be something that you'll get something wonderful out of in the time to come. So let's ask real quickly, highs and lows about this class. If you were going to do it yourself or take it again, what would you recommend as the best part and the worst part? Taylor?
I would recommend not getting a haircut for $10,000.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I would say, well, I understand completely why you did everything you did. But I mean, like, do like lower like numbers like getting a haircut, $10,000 or something like that. Now it doesn't really matter, but yeah, and then making more options for people to do like bankruptcy or lowering the tax
Mm.
fund, whatever thing. But yeah,
And what was I gonna say? Sorry. Oh yeah.
next person.
Mia?
I would say maybe making more opportunities for people who are in debt to get out, or at least trying, I don't know how you would do this, but making a way so that them getting in debt was like a little bit more of a choice, or like they had a choice to get out of debt, but it was at some type of sacrifice. Just so that it's not like you get $3 million in debt and you're all, well, there's nothing I can do and there's nothing that I did to get here. So
I'll go to Tyler and Ryan and then up to Kenna.
Okay. And then one thing, maybe not having to pay for your house every year. Maybe like if like something breaks, that was something that my parents brought up. They understood why you did it, but they didn't understand like we were going through it, and yeah.
And don't get fired 3 times. Just
That did have an impact on you. Kenna?
I think that if you get like your kids got married and you had to pay for all the weddings card, that at least one child should be able to move out, and that way your cost of children will go down a little bit. Because I mean, I know that it's that people like in this these years when you get married, most of the time they still live with their parents, but I just think it would be better and maybe not cause as much debt.
And maybe not getting married at 5 years old is also a pretty good option.
you should make a
Understandable. Mia?
I was just going to say, going off of Kenna's, technically, if all of my children are married, then they don't no longer fit in my house occupancy anyways, which means they could be kicked out, because that's 3 extra people I did not sign up for. It's their own responsibility now, not mine.
How about the action card topics? Were there some that you thought were more useful or some that you were like, this is really dumb?
They were all really good.
Yeah, they were all pretty good.
I didn't like watching that again.
What was that? Okay, Kenna and Maggie.
Do you want to go, Maggie? You can go.
Well, one thing is that probably a fish will not cost $10,000. It probably costs more like 5. So yeah. Also, a birthday party, you don't spend $100,000 on a present.
And then I was gonna say, I think one of my favorite topics that I wrote a paper on was either the fire department one or the painting for gold one. And then the one where I had to like research what the cost would be to make like your own nursery in your house. I mean, I understand that that is like a real cost and you do have to pay for those things, but it wasn't really like, I don't want to say I already knew things, but like I didn't feel like I really needed to do all this big research and write a paper about it.
Okay.
Maybe not 2 classes back to back and have this papers that you still have to write in between.
Mhm, mhm. So did you find the schedule hard? Would it's written to be once a week, not twice a week.
Okay, well then, yeah, that would be bad. But for this, that was like middle of the summer. It was a little busy. It was a little
Little much.
crazy.
Okay.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, we compressed it just so we could get it done before the school year started. So typically it would be once a week. Although I admit I would have gotten a little bit bored if it had lasted another 8 weeks. I don't know. That's just me. I would have been like, okay. But typically it would be once a week. And you think that would be manageable? So at our house, I saw people spending about 3 hours a week per class period of preparation. Is that across the board what you
I
guys
was
are
spending
spending?
like 4 or 5.
Oh, okay.
I only spent like in 1 or 2 an hour
Okay.
and a half.
It was hectic. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna pick on the high, which was Elijah, and the low, which was Taylor. Did you guys, like, what were your feelings holding those positions as we were coming through to the end?
Well, at first when I started going into that, I was like, dang it, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? And then I just started going deeper and deeper. I'm like, let's see how far I can make this. Challenge accepted.
Okay. Elijah?
So I guess it was fun, but there's a lot of chance involved. So I guess choosing a good job from the options available is important, but
You didn't take it too personally?
no.
No. Okay. Ryan and Tyler?
Another thing, maybe like when you have to like pick your house and pick your job and all that, maybe let it be more of like a personal choice. Like let them like pick, like say like 5 or 6 jobs, then have them like number the jobs. They can't like all be like the top, like have 2 be high, 2 be low, whatever. Just something that they would like to do that would feel make the game feel like more personalized. They can just like roll the dice to see which one of the jobs they got.
Okay. Ryan? Oh, you aren't raising your hand? Your hand is off the side of the screen, so I wasn't sure if you were just desperate for, I'm over here, I'm over here. All right, Kenna.
So maybe like, you know how when we play Dutch Blitz or a game where you can go into negative numbers,
Yeah.
maybe you have like a stopping point. So when they get to this far in debt, you can't go any further in debt. You just have to climb your way out of it.
Mhm. Okay. Okay. How did you feel about this group size? It felt like a really large group to
It
me.
felt small.
It felt small to you?
It felt small to me.
Okay. Mia?
I feel like it was pretty big, and that one of the reasons that we went over every time is just because there are so many people that were presenting or something that it took up a lot of time, and it also made it so if you had questions about someone's presentation or whatever, or you wanted to have a discussion about it, there wasn't always time for it because we had to get through everyone's action cards. And everyone's were a little bit different. Like some people, and even myself, some weeks I had like full papers that I had on a topic, and then other weeks I had 2 paragraphs that I had something to say. And so it was just kind of off balance because some people would spend 5 minutes presenting and some would spend 20 seconds. And so it just kind of was a little bit random.
Mhm. Samuel?
So yeah, I would basically agree. I thought that the class size was enjoyable. It was interesting, like with the action cards, it was interesting to learn about the different subjects, but I did feel that it took quite a while. I'm guessing that that's one of the main reasons was because we had just so many action card reports.
Mhm. Mhm. Kenna?
I would say that it was a pretty good sized class, if not small, like Tyler was saying. I think that we just probably needed a bit more time because there was more people and the papers were kind of long,
Mhm.
depending on what the subject was.
Would you have engaged with it as much if, what if I said, what if I drew 4 names of action cards a week? And you didn't know who it was gonna be? Would you have engaged as much? I feel like you might have missed.
Heck yeah. Would be
would have liked
exciting.
that?
Yeah, it'd be intense,
Okay,
kind of.
but you wouldn't have learned as much. That's the thing that I struggled with is the action cards presented the wider life skills things. So that was
Maybe
hard.
like 4 like 4 people have to present, and then all the other ones can just like send in an email.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, thank you. You guys, you were the guinea pigs, and I am so grateful to you for real. There are people in other places that are using this as a class that they're doing for personal economics. And so if you are willing to be quoted in the listing of reviews, then please send me an email so that I can directly quote you. I have found that it is really helpful to people to see YouTube reviews. So if you would like to do that and send me a video of you talking about the class and what the class was and your experience in it. I know it's super awkward, but I would really love to have it if your family is okay with you doing that. And so I think that that's all. I'm praying for each of you. You're pretty amazing, and I feel really lucky to have spent the summer with you. So thank you very, very much. Okay. All right. We'll see you guys later then.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Yep,
Thank
thanks.
you.
Bye.
Thank you. This was very fun.
I'm so
Yep,
glad.
bye.
Good.
Thank you.
Why can't I leave?